Hello, and welcome to 2-Minute Talk Tips. This week's tip, use parallel structure. Parallel structure uses the same word types, parts of speech, or sentence structure to connect ideas. Presenters should try to use it while speaking on occasion. So let's take a look at some examples. The first that springs to mind, of course, is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous I Have a Dream speech. Fans of Britain's Winston Churchill may recognize the parallel structure from one of his most famous addresses to Parliament. In talking about resisting the threat that Nazi Germany posed to the British people, Winston Churchill said, "We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever that cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." Parallel structure is also at the core of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. And it's not just in famous documents or world-changing speeches where you can hear the impact. Listen to this clip from later in today's show.
And I was very comfortable. I was very comfortable in that place. I was very comfortable with my role. I was very comfortable with what I was doing and how I was doing it. Bottom line, I was very comfortable.
When you use parallel structure, you add more rhythm to your talk. You engage your audience in a way that goes beyond just the literal words and into something more primal. You make it memorable. You make it important. You make it powerful. You make it more effective. Stick around. And after the break, I'm trying something new. I'll have part 1 of my interview with Tim Garber. Welcome back. Tim Garber is a university-trained public speaker passionate about healthcare, education, and consumer electronics. His professional speaking career began nearly 20 years ago recording retail store voicemail greetings before he moved on to teaching salespeople how to sell computers and servers while teaching educators how to use tablets and projectors in the classroom. He used his vocal talents in 2010 to host the InfoDesk, a technology podcast designed to help salespeople be more effective and productive and sell more Toshiba products. Tim then moved on to a career in the medical staffing field, teaching regular courses to new staff to help them place the right medical practitioners with the right facilities. A passionate fan of the original Fallout game, Tim now lives in Dallas with his wife Angela and 2 rapidly growing children. Tim has also been a good friend of mine for the past 20 years. And this week, I'm thrilled to bring you part 1 of a chat Tim and I recently had. Tim and I talk about job hunting as a public speaker. Okay, so Tim, I'm glad we could connect today and that you could join us.
Great to be here.
So how do you use your public speaking skills and your background today in your day-to-day life?
So it's funny, public speaking is one of those disciplines, and you know this as well as anyone, that doesn't always fit directly into a job description. It doesn't fit directly into a role. It's a skill that you and I love, and it's important, and everybody needs to have at least some competency with it, but it doesn't always conform to something that turns into a 9-to-5 job.
Right. It's like sometimes it's sort of an assumed skill for a lot of things. We don't see people advertising, putting out help wanted ads for orators these days.
No, help wanted orator. You do not see that, which is too bad, but no.
Because that would be awesome.
It would be awesome. But of course, one of the things that a public speaker can do, and something that you and I have done for years, is training. And what's funny about that is that, again, it's not exactly it's not always an exact match. Now, what you and I did as product evangelists, as sales and product trainers in a real specific industry, that was one thing. That was one place where you and I could say, hey, I mean, this is, what we do is actually our job, and hallelujah. But at the same time, training is also a funny role in that uh, it doesn't necessarily go right to public speaking as the thing that makes the trainer. It's all about adult education. So it's funny that I do, and I'll talk about this in a second, how I use what I am as a person, but I had to learn additional disciplines in order to make that come about. And that's kind of a lesson here for public speakers is know something else. Have a passion for something, because then you can combine those two things. And that's inevitably what I had to do. It is absolutely what I have to do now, because what I do now my title is Learning and Development Manager for a company called All Medical. All Medical Personnel is the full name of the company. And so, yes, I'm a facilitator in the classroom, and there is a lot of classroom training involved, but there is a lot more to my life in terms of setting up the things on which I will be speaking. And so instructional design, curriculum management, those things that I never in my career, Bill, and you know this, never believed I would need to do, and I have to do them. So it's funny that even though speaking is an important part of what I do, and it's a key component to my current position, it's still only a small part of the whole job. And that's the tricky part with public speakers, is that whatever your role is, chances are the public speaking itself may be an important component, but it won't be the only one.
So that's interesting that you bring that up. One of the things I've found is that when we talk about developing a curriculum and managing a curriculum and getting and actually
Yep.
doing the instructional design, it's something I found it. But personally, I've picked up a lot of those skills over the years, but they were all
Sure.
just things that I did, never things I really had a
Exactly.
label for or disciplined approach. So I found the last 6 months of my life, I've actually been going back and reviewing a lot of the literature in the area to formalize my knowledge on those areas.
Listen, let me tell you something. So it's funny. I had said before we started recording that if it was going to go in this direction, I would tell the story. It's going in this direction, so I'm going to tell the story. This is the whole theme right here of, well, not the theme, but the motif of the thing that you and I are talking about right now. And that is, when I bring new trainees in, this is what I tell them. And by the way, just for the record, the types of folks that I train at All Medical Personnel are recruiters, people who recruit providers or other types of candidates to take jobs that we have. And I also train the client salespeople who go and hunt the various facilities, go and hunt for jobs so that we can sell our services to them. And so that's what I train. So when they come in the first day, the story that I tell is I tell them about, my old life and the fact that I spent, the better part of 2 decades in one very specific, very crazy industry, PCs and consumer electronics. And I was very comfortable, I was very comfortable in that place. I was very comfortable with my role. I was very comfortable with what I was doing and how I was doing it. Bottom line, I was very comfortable. I was very comfortable being able to focus on one specific set of training skills and being able to mostly ignore an entirely separate but important and very closely related set of skills. So I could focus on being a facilitator and being Toshiba Tim and getting up on stage and getting in front of people and doing my thing. And I spent the better part of 13 years, doing that, and I got real comfortable. And that is the seductive part of this. And it's easy for someone who's a public speaker who finds a really good gig and is really good. And here's the thing, Bill, you and I, we weren't just good at it. We were effortlessly good at it. And so it was very easy for us to get very comfortable in those roles. But when the music stops and you got no chair to sit in, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, what do I do now? And you go out on the job market And if you're a trainer, you take a look at the job descriptions of the jobs that are being posted. You see all kinds of stuff like, okay, do this, that, and then you see other funny things like, design and manage curriculum. And it's a bullet point, kind of like in the middle of the job description, because they want to still call the job trainer, because trainers cost less than instructional designers, a lot less. But that's what the jobs entail. They want a jack of all trades. They want someone who can run the whole show. They want someone who can be a public speaker and a facilitator, and they want someone who can be an instructional designer in one package. Well, the instructional design, Bill, it's exactly as you said. I also got a little taste of that just through the duties, of my position, doing the tablet PC training and having that be a part of my life for a while and whatnot. And so when I finally got the new gig in a brand new industry, healthcare staffing, with a brand new culture and a different kind of training. Instead of the one and dones, we do our thing in front of those people, we go on to the next thing, we probably never see those people again. No, this time I have to own those people for 12 weeks, and they're mine, and I have to facilitate and manage the development of these people throughout their entire time in the program. And well, by the way, I have to manage the curriculum and do all that stuff. And that was new. Not only was it new though, but for the first time in years, man, I mean, for real, for the first time in years, I was challenged. I spent a lot of time being very comfortable in that thing, and now I'm being challenged. Now, it was a good thing. It needed to happen. It was the right time for it to happen. I was glad to say that for the most part, I was up to the challenge. But then another thing happened. So as I'm starting to kind of get my feet under me, the company that I'm working for at that point then decides they no longer need my services. Here we go again. So for the second time in a couple of years, I'm unemployed again. And this is the thing, man. This is where it happens. Where, especially if you get to be our age or close to it, you take that look in the mirror and you have to make a decision. What do I have to do to take that next step in my career and have that be real? What do I have to do? Knowing that, listen, you do what we do, you got to accept the fact that we are not revenue generators, at least not directly. We eat revenue directly.
Yep, we're a cost center, not a profit center.
You got it. We are a cost center, not a profit center. So with that in mind, you just got to know that things can always change. But what can I do to help mitigate some of that, to help that be not such a drastic change if that happens? And so the step that I took was I went back to night school. I went to a local community college where they were offering a certificate series on instructional design development. And so I took night classes. And in fact, when I interviewed for the job that I have now, I was actually taking classes. That was happening at the same time. And so I made the decision to go back to school to learn what I needed to learn in a formal capacity to get the skills and the knowledge that I needed, knowing that I was never going to be, hey, listen, man, I'm not going to be a great instructional designer. That's never going to be my thing. I won't love it the way that I love facilitating and speaking, and I'll never be as good at that as I will be at facilitating and speaking. But I got to know enough so that I can manage those things. Because if I someday want to have my own training department with my own people, my own instructional designers, I need to know how to manage those things. So that was the step that I took. I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, trainer, train thyself. And I took that step. And that's the thing that you have to recognize. Public speakers out there, don't wait for the thing to happen to you. Don't wait for a trainer like me to tell you to do it. Take a look at yourself in the mirror right now. Figure out what you have to be better at, and then go do it. Because in our line of work, you never know when that other shoe is going to drop, and you have to be as ready as you can be. But when you can do that, and when you can make that positive change, and when you can adapt and find a place that's going to give you a shot, then guess what you can do? You can take your new knowledge in there, but you can still lean on the things that made you good in the first place. And that was the thing that I did, Bill, to get me through my first go around and my current go around, is I continued to lean on the fact that I can get up in front of people and I can say what I need to say and deliver the message I need to deliver with maximum impact. And I was still able to lean on that while I was continuing to get my feet under me. So just because you need to bring new things in, don't let that throw you, and don't let that take you away from playing to your strengths, because you can still do that.
That's it for this week. Join us again next week where Tim and I discuss the power and personal passion that goes into public speaking. So how did you enjoy part 1? What did it make you think about? Let us know in the comments for episode 10 at 2minutetalktips.com. And if you enjoy 2-Minute Talk Tips, please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and leave a rating or review in the iTunes store. Until next week, try to incorporate parallel structure into your discussion, identify the other skills you have or want to acquire, and don't get best, get better.